Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Once again, this is Naaman with the DC Camp Branch of Great Millstone, back for another video. Call all Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Kahawadash. And of course, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, pushing the truth across the four corners of the earth, not to mention all the videos that are posted on a daily that also assist in this truth going out. All right. In this video here, uh, is going to speak towards that because this elderly Jake was at this town hall meeting that guess who finally shows his face again after being in the doghouse, and that's Vivek Ramaswamy, the Elamite slash East Indian, all right, that told the truth about white people being lazy. Now, they didn't like that. He was initially part of the Doge group. And then after he said that, you really haven't seen too much of him. All right. But now he's in the running for governorship of the state of Ohio, where this brawl took place. And I'm a little late on it. I made a video last week, but for some reason, no sound. But we'll revisit it again. And I'm just going to play a small portion of this video. This is Sabbath Sabs. And I guess let me get this out of the way. Let's see, where do I have it? All right, here we go. This is the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use. All right, for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research, which of course is what I'm doing. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, so there we go. All right, so we get into here. This is why me personally, I could never be a politician. Not only is this blatant disrespect to the gentleman that answered the question, he just didn't want to deal with it. He probably couldn't deal with it without offending his, I'm just going to put it like this, his handlers, which of course would probably be APAC. All right, so let's go ahead and roll the video. Let's see what I mean. Uh,
Thing, okay? Um, Back in my day, when two people had a disagreement and there was a fight, the fight was supposed to be between those two people. But you can't, and I said this before, you cannot hit someone. Well, you can if you wanted to, but you got to be ready for the repercussions. You got to be ready for that. Now, you heard what they said. All of them were arrested, but the Russian guy who slapped the black guy that started the whole fight has not been arrested. Now, this isn't just.
and to make that worse, the guy that was slapped in the red shirt was not who he was in an argument with initially. And the guy in the red shirt was mentally disabled. He's, from what I hear, known in that area. All right. That's another thing.
About that brawl in particular. It's about Cincinnati and the history of Cincinnati. Cincinnati has a long history of racism, and it is one of the most segregated cities in the country. We'll get into a little bit about that just to show you how rough it can be there on the racial lines, just how segregated it is, etc. But what's crazy about all this is that Vivek Ramaswamy decided to hold a town hall because this event happened. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy apparently has not gone away. Last time I checked,
Yeah. And what's that saying that these politicians use? That never let a situation go to waste, or something to that effect. Excuse me if I misquote it. But yeah, and everybody's trying to capitalize on this. This woman, she's already made over $200,000, and for not telling the truth. All right, just like that last one, I heard that was staged because I heard the woman that called The child, the N word. You know, I heard that was staged. That her boyfriend is a Jake. That's just what I hear. All right, I don't hold me to that, but that was just something I heard recently. Um, if that proves, of course, to be the case, boy, they in trouble. But again, people have figured out how to get wealth, well, I won't say wealthy, but make money off of Jake for the most minute things.
He said that he was going to run for governor of Ohio. So he takes it upon himself to host a town hall because of this issue. Now, I want you to hear what this gentleman says to Vivek Ramaswamy in the audience and how Vivek don't really want to deal with it. He said, a black man in Cincinnati challenged me tonight on why our country sweeps under the table the past wrongs committed against African Americans. So, listen to this. This violence that you see out here will look over the 400 years of all the violence that was perpetrated on our people. Over the 400 years, look what you did to our people. But yet, it's not over with. No, it's not over with. That's the thing. You want to sweep our history under the table, but you don't sweep the Orthodox Jews with the Hitler thing under the table. He went there. He went there. It's becoming more and more obvious,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen.
But it's not. That's
He's
not
right.
it.
He is correct. When it comes to the freedmen, our history, everybody said, don't talk about that, don't focus on that, just move on. Don't talk about race, don't talk about that, don't talk about any of those things. But when it comes to certain groups, and he said it, you gotta still focus on that history. You gotta still focus on what happened to them. And that is all by design.
Yep, watch this.
Let's continue. All the things that you did to the other races of people, you don't sweep that under the table. But when it comes down to the black Negro, we can always sweep what happened to us under the table. So I'm telling you right now, the Most High.
There you go.
Looking at all of this. That's why, according to Deuteronomy 28.
Yes.
Chapter 28, chapter 29, and chapter 30 for all you ministers, you need to read because we're living in Revelation time. And it tells you what was done to my people are going to happen to you.
And who's his people? The Israelites. And nobody else. Those are the saints that are mentioned. This is why a lot of Jakes are going to die. When I say Jakes, I mean sons of Jacob. The descendants are going to get wrecked out here. And I'm here in D.C., and they just were one step closer to martial law. And it's a beautiful thing because these Jakes out here think they're badasses. All right. And they're getting ready to get their asses handed to them. And it's a beautiful thing because a lot of people are tired. Now, the sad thing about that is there's a list that just came out of the most crime-ridden cities. There's 30 of them. D.C. is not even on it. Baltimore is, but not D.C. There's a town or city in Utah that's on it, but not D.C. Little Rock, Arkansas is on it, but not D.C. Memphis, Tennessee is on it, not D.C. So there's more going on here, and she's going to get into that. Here, my next video. Hold on. Watch this.
I want to thank you for one thing out the gate is that I said this at the start.
This coward.
I don't think anybody think I planted Robert's question. We didn't plant the questions tonight. We have promised an open and candid conversation. Sometimes that makes us uncomfortable. I felt a little uncomfortable as you asked that question, but that's
Of course he
what you
did.
should expect of your leaders, to be able to engage with you. So let me say a couple words.
Watch this shit.
First about the pride of this city. Christopher, you mentioned at the outset, Cincinnati was the end of the Underground Railroad. Have we been perfect for all of our national history? Of course we're not perfect. In fact, we're destined to never be perfect because we're not a nation comprised of gods. We're a nation comprised of human beings. And we're a nation founded on a set of ideals. So that means you will always be imperfect because...
Okay, first of all, who's the we? See, this is another issue that's been brought to the surface as of late because a lot of these immigrants, especially ones like this, Elam, these East Indians, oh, they hate our fucking guts. You know, this goes way, way back. All right. So he's part of one of these nations that, I mean, they come over here and they become white adjacent, as it's known as. All right. And as many times, I'm thinking of that with this asshole here, I'm thinking of that interview with Ann Coulter, and she told him straight out, all right, I'm not going to vote for you because of who you are, you know. And you should have seen the look on his face, but he's still, you know, kissing these Edomites' ass. All right. I mean, but yet, with all their disagreements, all right, they can agree. All of them can agree to come against us. How about that? Yes, these curses are upon us. You know, he mentioned Deuteronomy 28, Salaki. Deuteronomy 28, and that's as it says in verse 45 and 4. Let me get that real quick. That these curses will be a sign, all right, as to who's who, as an identifier. This is Deuteronomy 28. Just for the, you know, I have to go over this because some people just might not know. This is Moses telling his people, all right, this is what will happen if you would have, well, let's just read it. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 1 says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High thy power, his name is Yahweh, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Most High thy God, not everybody's, all right, this is exclusive to the Israelites, will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Deuteronomy, the same book, but chapter 7 and 6, all right? All these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy power. But what do we do? Well, when we go down to 15, it tells you, all right, that's all the blessings, all right? And it goes here, curses for disobedience, all right? But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, because a covenant is an agreement. It's a contract. And there's punishments for a breach of contract, just like here in the world. All right? In his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All right? All right, so it tells you no matter where you go, you can't outrun these curses. 17, all right? You're not going to be prosperous wherever you go. And we're talking about collectively here. All right? Curse shall be the fruit of thy body, which is what? Your children. All right? And also your livestock, etc. All right? But I wanted to get to, let's get on down to here. What's the lot of Jake currently, even when we're out there on the highways and byways, says the Most High shall smite thee with madness. You just look at how Jake acts. All right? You know, and blindness and astonishment of heart. All right? Where's the other one? Let's see. Let's see. That's not one. Let me go in the opposite direction here. All right. Let's see. The Most High shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke. All right, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Most High shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. All right, that's not what I was looking for, but let's see. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine eyes. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kings of the earth. That applies to us. All right. Let's see. In other words, we have no power. All right. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. All right. Here it is. I went the opposite direction. Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword. Nigger, coon, jigaboo, tar baby, and on and on and on. Among all nations, whither the Most High shall lead thee. People are coming over here. Nigger. All right. The point I was going to make is these things, these curses will cleave to thee. All right. Oh, and here's one about the strangers, all these immigrants coming over here. And all of a sudden, and this is set up by our chief enemy, Edom, the so-called white man. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. They own all the stores in our neighborhood. They don't invest in our neighborhood. All that money leaves and goes out in the suburbs with them. That's a curse. You can't educate yourself out of a curse. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. All right. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. My point, 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the Most High, thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed, descendants, forever. It doesn't actually mean forever, and this forever, it just means a long time in this context. All right. So, he told him. And this guy didn't like it very much. So he danced all around it, as you can see, as far as an answer. Well, we're not perfect. As if it was just by accident that these things happen. Get the fuck out of here.
Nobody ever criticizes China. Or
See how he spun that?
For hypocrisy. Because to be a hypocritical nation, you had to have ideals in the first place. So here's what I'll tell you, Robert. And am I going to say America was perfect for every chapter of our national history? Of course not. We're a nation founded on ideals. We're a nation founded on...
And look at them in the back. They know he's full of shit.
But I would rather live in a country that has ideals and falls short of them than to live in a country with no ideals at all.
See the level of disrespect Jake gets?
So that's
And
a
I just
cop-out
read...
answer because he doesn't really want
Yeah, it is a cop-out answer. And I just read you the curses. About all the disrespect. And this is just exclusively to Jake, whether it be Northern Kingdom or Southern Kingdom. All right?
address what that gentleman said there in the audience. First of all, yeah, America's not perfect. It does fall short. However, when it comes to certain groups, you choose to prioritize the harms of one over another. That's the point that he was discussing. You choose to focus on the harms of one over another group. When it comes to freedmen in particular, we are told that was in the past, move on. Don't talk about race. And yet those same people like Vivek Ramaswamy will tell you to do everything in their power possible and will advocate for it to make sure that Israel continues to exist. You see where I'm going? 1 second. Will advocate for that Israel continues to exist. Will advocate for still sending money to Israel, $3.8 billion a year.
Plus all the arms. All right.
All of these cities send money to Israel, but you have American freedmen living in poverty in those cities. The white people don't look away. You got poor white people living in poverty in those cities too, but the money is going to Israel for them to have a supremacy nation. So it's not about being perfect. Nobody expects a country to get everything right. It's about who you choose to prioritize and who you tell shut up and be quiet and let it go. That's what it's really about.
Fuck you.
And in particular, when it comes to Cincinnati, Cincinnati has a history, a long history of racial terror, of redlining, and is still one of the most segregated cities in the country today. So Vivek's response to him is done so that Vivek doesn't have to address the issue that you are choosing to prioritize a white minority over freedmen who endured Jim Crow, slavery, redlining, black code laws throughout this country. And when it comes to Israel, the harms that were done were not done here in the United States. Why is the U.S. government, why are politicians like Vivek prioritizing?
Exactly. A whole another continent. But everybody wants to kiss these people's ass. Why? Because, well, they are the wicked. They are in the power seat. All right. And they've got their hand in everything here in America as far as politics goes with these lobbies. All right. AIPAC is the biggest one. Yeah. And the U.S. has just let them do whatever they wanted since the Kennedy administration. Because he wanted them to register as foreign agents. That was in May and June of '63. David Ben-Gurion was just stepped down from all the, because he was getting all the grief from Kennedy, and he just resigned in June of '63. He said, fuck it. Also, the Federal Reserve, Executive Order 11-110. All right, what Kennedy was trying to do. Let's just look that up. Let's see. Executive Order. Whoops. One, two, three, 4, 10. All right. Here it is. This is what Kennedy was trying to do. This is in June of '63. Like I said. All right. Amended Executive Order 10-289, dated September 17th, because initially Truman, this is when he was in office, tried to, he looked at it, by delegating the Secretary of the Treasury the President's authority to issue silver certificates under the Thomas Amendment of the Agricultural Adjustment Act as amended by the Gold Reserve Act. The order allowed the secretary to issue silver certificates. If you've never seen a silver certificate, a dollar that has the blue seal on it, as opposed to the green seal, that the one that's based on gold. All right, it says if any, I had one years ago, didn't know what I had until many years later. If any were needed, and during the transition period under President Kennedy's plan to eliminate silver certificates and use Federal Reserve notes. All right, on November 28th, 1961, President Kennedy halted sales of silver by the Treasury Department, increasing demand for silver as an industrial metal that led to an increase in the market price of silver above the United States government's fixed price. This led to a decline in the government's excess silver reserves by over 80% during 1961. Kennedy also called upon Congress to phase out silver certificates in favor of Federal Reserve notes, which, according to the Associated Press at the time, were still backed by gold. Kennedy repeated his calls for Congress to act on several occasions, including his 1963 economic report, where he wrote, you can read that if you want, but the thing is, it says, I'm going to skip down here, text of executive order. It says President Kennedy's executive order 11110 modified the pre-existing executive order 10289 issued by U.S. President Harry S. Truman on September 17th, 1951, and stated the following. The Secretary of the Treasury is hereby designated and empowered to perform the following described functions of the President without the approval, ratification, or other action of the President. Executive Order 10289 then lists tasks A through H, which the Secretary may now do without instruction from the President. None of the powers assigned to the Treasury in Executive Order 10289 related to money or to monetary policy. All right. And again, you can read this for yourself, but this is one of these that they say could have been. I apologize for the ambient noise. You got these. Anyway, they finally closed the door. Anyway, as one of the possibilities, possible reasons for his assassination. All right. And it says JFK assassination theory. Jim Marrs, in his book Crossfire, presented the theory that Kennedy was trying to rein in the power of the Federal Reserve, like I said, all right? So let's go back to this. I just thought I'd point that out. Finish this on out.
For a white minority group, and the harm was not done here, but you won't prioritize or advocate for repairing freedmen when the harm was done here.
Yeah.
That is the point the gentleman was making.
Exactly, and that's scripture too, because when you go to Isaiah, all right, 42, you know where I'm going. They make so much money off of Jake, and a huge one is from the prison industrial complex. Do you really think they want Jake to be, as she said, restored? This is Isaiah 42 and 22. It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled, talking about Israel. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and we are a prey, all right? And none delivereth for a spoil, and none saith, restore. They will give you all this bullshit like holidays, but they will never give you anything of substance that's going to actually help us. That's why there's so much resistance to reparations. They just, since I'm on this, guess what these motherfuckers just did? You remember all the protests, Palestinian protests, these universities? These motherfuckers, as a slap in the face to us. Let's see. It's really gonna make you mad. All right. Pace. Listen to this. And this is the Palestine Chronicle, as soon as it loads. Columbia University didn't pay reparations for slavery, which they were directly involved in, all right, with owning our people, but they pay the Jewish staff because their feelings were hurt. All right. When is, hold on. There we go. Get rid of that. All right. It says on April 17, 2024, anti-war student protesters set up their first encampment at Columbia University in order to pressure the academic institution to divest from Israel. Which brings up something else, because these criminals that are occupying the land of Israel have it here. Remember, I mentioned AIPAC, which is a huge lobby of theirs and not supposed to have that much power here in local politics, but they do. Millions of dollars in removing candidates that don't kiss their ass. All right. It says now they have a law that they're trying to. I don't know if it's everywhere. I just heard in like a couple of places, but you are forbidden to boycott anything Israel related. It says the reaction from the university was to call in law enforcement, including riot police, to violently expel them for their peaceful activism and lawfully exercising free speech. First Amendment, right? Is it? But except when it comes to criticizing who's really in control here. Let's face it, that's these Israelis. It says the violent crackdown triggered a wave of encampments by students at Ivy League colleges across the country before escalating across the entire North American continent and resulting in an uptick in student activism across Europe. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu compared the student protests to Nazis, which was followed by U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson. He's in their pocket, labeling them all anti-Semitic. There's no such word as Semitic. It's Shemitic. All right. They did this on purpose because this just pertains to them. There are, I believe, 8 families of Shemites. East Indians are Shemitic. Ishmaelites, so-called Arabs, are Shemitic. And we are Shemitic. Ammonites, so-called Japanese, are Shemitic. Moabites, so-called Chinese, are Shemitic peoples because they come out of us. Genesis 19th chapter. All right, and accusing them of being terrorist sympathizers. Media outlets from CNN to Fox News provided wall-to-wall coverage of alleged anti-Semitism on college campuses, even reporting on various hoaxes that were invented by Zionist activists, like claims from a woman that she was stabbed in the eye with a flagpole, amongst others. Amongst all of the violent assaults and racial abuse came from Zionist activists against the student protests. So if anything, the students should have sued. All right. So what happened? Let me skip on down here. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Here it is. To the great displeasure of Columbia faculty, the university decided to back down once again and hand $200 million to the Trump administration, in addition to pledging $21 million in reparations for Jewish staff. Putting aside the fact that the university refused to stand up for or compensate Palestinian students or others with reparations for violent assaults and trauma that they endured during this period, Columbia University has still never paid reparations to Black Americans for its ties to slavery. The university, particularly in its early years, while still called King's College, was deeply immersed in the slave trade. In fact, of its first 10 presidents, at least half were proven back in 2017 to have owned slaves. So there's the continuing on.
And you see it right now with the Cincinnati brawl, where they arrested the black people, but they didn't arrest the white Russian guy who slapped the black guy in the face. So the racism and the racial, the structural racism that is also still present in Cincinnati is very much alive today. And the only reason Vivek Ramaswamy is hosting this damn town hall is because he wants to run for governor of Ohio. That's why he's hosting this damn town hall. Vivek don't give a damn. Don't give a damn. When he was on the campaign trail running for president, he basically told when black people bring up these issues, he would say, don't make yourself a victim. Did you tell that to the Israelis? Did you? Do you hear Vivek Ramaswamy say to the ADL, all these organizations, ADL, APAC, all these things, do you hear him tell them, don't make yourself a victim? No, he doesn't. He is supporting the same ideology. And this is what I've said before. All of these people who sat back and said, don't talk about identity, don't talk about race, they were talking about a particular identity. They were talking about a particular race, because when it comes to Israel, the Israelis, when it comes to that group, not only do they talk about it, they advocate for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they continue to send money there so that they continue to have their supremacy.
Exactly. Hold on. Yeah, so the level of disrespect, all right, and again, this is scriptural, you know, and this comes from everybody. Psalms 83rd chapter, all right, starting in verse 6, it gives you a list of all these nations. First Maccabees 2 and 10 tells you all these nations had a hand in our misery, all right.
This is a problem. Now, Vivek, you got a problem. Because you went around this country telling black people, don't make yourself a victim. And you standing right here in one of the most segregated cities in the country, you want to pretend like this doesn't exist. Let me show you. This isn't just about the Cincinnati brawl. Can I go a little bit more here? Okay. Let me highlight this. There was something I wanted to tell you guys. Then we can get into a little bit of the history, right? So, did you guys know there was this band? I guess they still around. Nick Lachey does the Love Is Blind show with his wife. So I watch Love Is Blind, so I know Nick's still around. I don't know everybody else at. But there was.
I'm gonna skip a little bit further. She's just getting you familiar with. Let's see. You can, yeah, about right here.
98 Degrees did speak about that, but you guys got to see this, right? It runs deep. It's not just that performing arts school, right? Segregation in Cincinnati neighborhoods, a brief history. We're just going to, shoot through some of these. We're not going to read each and everything, but the things that you guys, I think, need to see. Cincinnati is a majority city, but many of the neighborhoods don't reflect that. 2020 census data found that while minority populations are on the rise, on the west side, 9 of Cincinnati's 10 most segregated white neighborhoods are now clustered on the east side. This is what Nick Lachey was talking about. Segregation is not new to the city. Here are some of the things that happened so that you understand. In the 1800s in Cincinnati, Ohio had black laws. It discouraged black people from settling in the new state by limiting their freedoms. Black settlers often required to find 2 people willing to post a $500 surety guaranteeing their good behavior. They couldn't own guns, marry whites and must prove to local authorities they are not slaves before receiving a certificate that allows them to legally work in the state. This is how far back this goes. We go here to the 1820s. A series of race riots occurred in Cincinnati as white residents pushed back against the small but growing black population. A white mob attacked black neighborhoods for weeks. That was 1929, or 1829. 1850s. Most Cincinnatians live in a 6 square mile area, making it one of the nation's most densely populated cities. The poorest, including most of the city's black population, live on the city's polluted and crowded riverfront. Black people live alongside whites, but they cluster mainly in Bucktown and Little Africa, two predominantly white neighborhoods that likely got their names because they were home to black churches, schools, and other institutions. 1870, Cincinnati streetcars and inclines expand the city's living space, making it possible for people to live farther away from their workplace. Those with financial means move from the crowded riverfront and begin to do so. Poor whites and most of the city's black population are left behind. This is when the streetcars start coming in. Into the 1900s in Cincinnati. As you'll see here, it says Cincinnati's black population begins to grow rapidly, more than doubling to almost 50,000 between 1910 and 1930 as they migrate north in pursuit of jobs. Okay, let's continue. 1920s, Cincinnati Real Estate Board issues a mandate to real estate agents. No agent shall rent or sell property to colored people in an established white section or neighborhood, and this inhibition shall be particularly applicable to the hilltops and the suburban community. See these laws that they were passing and putting into effect? 1923, black mortality rates are double those of the city overall. Upon visiting Cincinnati's West End public health pioneer, Dr. Haven, said you could not produce a price hog to show at the fair under conditions that allow Negroes to live in the city.
It was that bad for Jake. Damn.
1926, the U.S. Supreme Court affirms legality of zoning laws in the landmark Euclid versus Amber Realty. Though the dispute is over the separation of industrial and residential areas, the court's ruling also allows zoning that separates different types of residential homes and apartments, essentially limiting access to some neighborhoods based on income. Moving forward, 1930s, the new Federal Housing Administration provides federally backed loans to home buyers in Cincinnati. The program reinforces housing segregation by drawing lines around the neighborhoods on the map, ranking them from the lowest to the highest lending risk. This is redlining.
Yep.
Goes on here. Obviously, the black neighborhoods were the highest risk, so guess what? They didn't get those loans. 1930s to the 1940s. Growing demand for low-income housing leads city officials to begin using federal aid to build large-scale housing projects. Almost all of these are racially segregated. Here we go again, right? And a housing project, by the way, is a project. It's an experiment. Let's try this out and see what works. They look at you as like lab rats. Goes on here, and 1943, crowding worsens in black neighborhoods because so little housing is available to black residents. Housing vacancies in black areas of the city fall to 0.3% compared to 2% to 3% in white areas. 1944, a mob of more than 50 white men and boys surround a Mount Adams home soon after a black woman and her children move into a downstairs apartment. The mob hurls stones at her home, breaking every window, forcing the occupants to flee. No arrests are made. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
The white guy who slapped the black man, was he arrested? No. That was back then, but you see, they still moving in this way. 1947, Evanston Homeowners Association devises a plan to prevent black people from moving in. This happened right here in this country, right? We're not talking about what happened elsewhere. This is what people need to wake up from, okay? But you got politicians like Vivek there said, you got to support Israel, always we support Israel. We got to give what's owed to them, etc. Yada yada. First of all, it's not owed to them. They're lying to you about the Bible and have been for the longest time.
There you
They
go.
will not right the wrongs of what happened to black people in this country. 1950, Cincinnati undertakes a massive
What did she say? They lied about you. They lied to you about what happened in the Bible concerning them, because they're not the people. They're converts. And these stupid ass Christians, these jakes, he just can't get out of that slave mentality, that slave Christian, you know.
development of the lower West End to make way
It's either them or them really stupid ass Muslims. I mean, guys are fucking idiots.
for Interstate 75. New industrial and business district, now known as Queens Gate. Tenements and shops in an area known as Kenyon Bar, almost entirely populated by black families, are torn down. Eminent domain. Moving on. 1968, the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination for sale, renting, or financing housing based on race, religion, sex, etc. 1970s, though banned by Fair Housing Act, 1970s and 90s, discriminatory practices continue. Some real estate agents steer whites to predominantly white neighborhoods and black people to black neighborhoods. In Cincinnati, housing opportunities made equal files multiple lawsuits against insurance companies and real estate firms to expose and end such practices. The 2000s in Cincinnati. White Cincinnatians begin to move back into some urban core neighborhoods.
Gentrification.
More integrated neighborhoods, but also to gentrification that displaces some poor black residents. The point is this, folks. This isn't just about the brawl. The treatment that happened for black people in Cincinnati going back to the 1800s to today has not been rectified. And there has been no repair. And that is what that gentleman in that audience was trying to make clear to Vivek Ramaswamy. These are the things that we have to talk about. You have to understand, when I say, what do we want? Yeah, it's easy to look at this and say, okay, well, we want the white guy to be arrested too. That's the easy part. But you need to look at the bigger picture. What you want is equality. What you want is equity.
And that's another thing that trips our people up. You continue to say you want to be equal with these pieces of shit. No, you are above them, as I just read in these scriptures. Why do you continually want to be, all right, next to people that despise the very sight of you? See, these leaders that our enemy presented to us, that set up for us, they want to take anyway. All right? MLK, all that shit. So that's why I say, you look for reparations. Our reparations are Revelation 13 and 10. All right? Because what they did to us, we're going to do to them, but double. And that's Revelation 18th chapter. They're going to get double for what they did to us. That's the reparations that we should be concerned about.
So let's say tomorrow they do arrest the white guy who slapped the black guy. Okay. Does that change the racial tension in Cincinnati? No.
Nope, because it doesn't address the root
Does that change the racial
issue.
segregation in Cincinnati? No. Does it stop the gentrification in Cincinnati?
Nope.
No. Does it stop black people from losing their homes in Cincinnati?
Nope.
No.
See, we've been accustomed to looking for these very small victories, like she just mentioned. You want this guy to be arrested, but At the end of the day, overall, what's that's going to do for us? That's what we're out there on the highways and byways trying to tell our people. In this period that is, the opportunity, that grace period, for you to reconcile and repent. That's it. Because those doors of mercy are closing. All right. Like I said, I'm here in D.C. now. We're just one step closer to martial law over some bullshit. But they're able to do it because we're not in the power seat. They are. All right. They're presenting this, or I should say, they're twisting the, the crime stats in such a way that people actually, without doing any study of their own, are just falling for this because these are the racist bastards. This is the nation's capital, and this is the so-called white man trying to reassert his dominance, his authority. All right, all right, because he knows he's been losing. He's been losing. All right, he's trying to rein in his women too. Some of this, as far as the DEI and shit like that, is really more to it than what it looks on the surface. All right, all that feminism shit is backfired. That's his concern. Yeah, it tore apart our families, but it's doing the same to his now. He's got to rein his woman in because his woman wants Jake. He can't have that. That was what in the 1600s, in the mid 1600s, that's why they established those laws. Because back then, the white woman, despite our low condition, she still wanted Jake over them. There's a whole lot of history out here if you take the time, all right, to learn it, to see what's really going on here. All right, so with that, yeah, I went far longer in this than I really intended. Uh, but that, hey, the spirit, that's the way it works. Yeah, Jake shook him with that question. All right. Actually, he should have said, you know, Isaiah 14, 1 and 2, and Revelation 13 and 10, like I said, because they are our reparations. They're going to build our wealth. All right. So with that, once again, I hope whoever views this has been edified. Once again, this is Sabby Sabs, her site, Cincinnati residents challenges Vivek after brawl. I'm a little late to the party on this, but hey, I thought that was very important because, like I say, more people than you probably think or aware, all right, of what's going on. And these scriptures, these videos are out there, and hey, like I say at my intro, this is what, all these videos being uploaded, despite or in addition to us being out there on the highways and byways, hey, this word has gotten out, and it's beautiful. All right, it is beautiful to see this in real time. All right, so let me close out with this scripture here. This is I'm gonna get Sirach 25 and 7, and it says that in whoops, hold on, I don't know where that. Here it is. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 25, verse 7. There be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And that's where we're at now. We're seeing this piece of shit white man fall. All right, Luke 10 and 18. We're seeing him fall from his heaven. All right, his rulership. And it's beautiful. All right, so with that, hey, I like to remind everybody to, especially in the times that we're in now, to continue to be circumspect. Keep your head on a swivel. All right, and like I said, pray always. All right, so with that, Until the next video, hey, shalom, shalom, shalom.